Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast, and let me make sure of one thing. I do this sometimes just for peace of mind that, hey, you guys know I am actually recording. Alright, this is going to be game 1 in a series between, I believe it's called Western Wolves' Sting versus Grubby here on Daybreak. Now this is a Terran versus Protoss matchup. This was taken from IEM, excuse me. Everything has an L in it for some reason. IEM Singapore just a couple weeks back. And this is the finals. So the winner here does take it all. Will Grubby be able to come out with the victory here in this best of 5 series, or will Sting come out with the victory? Now, a couple of things to note. I do believe that Grubby has had a lot of luck in Singapore and Asian countries other than Korea, so perhaps the luck will be with him in this particular series as well. Now, those of you guys who don't know Sting, Sting has pretty much been trying to qualify for Code A for quite some time in the GSL. He did recently qualify for the IGN Pro League as well. So he's a pretty big name player. Just, I believe it is the first time I've ever cast him. So I'm interested to see what his particular strategies are, especially in Terran versus Protoss. We are going to be seeing Grubby now set down a gateway and do a little bit of scouting. Meanwhile, Sting is going to be opening up with a very, very greedy command center first here on Daybreak. And I'm interested to know what Grubby is going to do to follow this up. Most likely, Grubby will be setting up that assimilator and then followed up with that pylon. Most Protoss players do still like to get that warp gate tech going before they try to do anything else. Sting is going to be setting up a 14 command center down here on the low ground, and then I assume he'll be following it up with a 15 or 16 barracks. Very, very common strategy, as the probe, did it actually spot the command center? Yes, it did. It just decided not to do anything about it. I am a bit surprised there. The probe, I would have thought, would have liked to deal some damage to that SCV as it's trying to build. And one of the benefits for that probe is that those shields will naturally regenerate. Barracks is now coming into play. Most likely we will see a bunker here. And now it is in Grubby's court to figure out what his follow-up plan will be. It looks like his follow-up plan will be a nexus at the 19 supply mark. So this is going to be a 1-gate expand with the assimilator down, and he purposely did not try to place down that Cybernetics core because he knows that he doesn't need it just quite yet. This is one of the things where I do like about Grubby's play. Now that I've watched him play a little bit more, he seems to adapt his build orders based upon what he sees his opponent doing. Now in Warcraft 3, where Grubby has the most notoriety, you didn't really have to worry about builds and counter builds nearly as much. Timings were not nearly as tight as it is in Warcraft 3 as it is in StarCraft 2, and Grubby has adopted the fact that, hey, you know what? I see you going for a fast command center. I'm going to try to go for a fast nexus as well, even if it requires me delaying my Cybernetics core and my warp gate tech. Regardless, I'm still going to be slightly ahead of you, and currently supply block though sitting at 26 over 26. Grubby does need to get those additional pylons and figure out what his follow-up plan will be. Now I am waiting for that bunker that is normally placed down here by Terran players to make sure that they don't have to deal with that aggression. The SCV from Sting, though, did a good job scouting out his opponent, and he knows that he doesn't need that bunker just quite yet. Hold on one moment. Alright, my apologies. Let's go ahead and get back into the game. So luckily that wasn't any part of the serious action, and we'll see what's going to be happening here between Grubby and Sting. Now, so far all we see are both players are just setting up their pieces and setting up themselves to be very, very successful in the mid game. Both players now have two bases. It looks as though a third base may be coming in sometime soon from Sting. A lot of the times Terran players will build that additional command center here or down over here, lifting off and being able to land. One of the benefits of Terrans, and it's very, very silly to not utilize some of your natural racial advantages in a matchup like this. Stalker, however, trying to run up into those Marines, and that was not a good fight at all. He did get off one shot, and I'm very impressed by Grubby here. He only took damage on the shields, and oh, that could be a little bit bad now. Backing away once more. Grubby naturally regenerating the energy on the shields, and he got like 2 or 3 free shots off onto those Marines there. Always very, very nice when you can get free shots onto units. Medevac will most likely heal that up a little bit later, but it didn't really cost Grubby anything at all. Now, let's take a look at the production tab. Both sides are still training up SCVs and probes. We're sitting at 35 to 39 right now. The benefit of that Chrono Boost making its way in for Grubby. Meanwhile, the benefit of those mules also showing itself for Sting. I believe mules are perhaps back inside the main base. Yes, there are. And Sting with pretty heavy saturation here. Perhaps 2 SCVs per mineral patch. Not quite yet up to 3. And he is deciding to transfer all of his SCVs down here to the low ground, which I do really like to see a lot of professional players do as well, as opposed to trying to pull SCVs over, just changing the rally point on one. So you are training up more units down here, and since it is less diminishing returns, you're not really losing that much mining time. Stalkers now are about to try to press forward here. I don't know if this is going to be a good engagement for Grubby. Grubby taking some damage onto that Stalker there, down to 57 hit points, as an SCV looks like, oh, it does get pushed back there. Nicely done by Grubby once more. In order to save the scout, or deny the scout, he actually utilized the force field to push the SCV towards him in order to make sure that the SCV didn't get up that ramp, since SCVs do have faster movement speed. Now, Grubby is sitting on maximum energy on a Nexus, and that is something that I'd never like to see coming in from a Protoss player, especially when you have upgrades like this. There's so many possibilities in order to upgrade. You can see level 1 weapons and armor upgrades. We are going into a Colossus. No, yet not any extended thermal lance range yet, as Grubby is not going to be able to train too many Colossi at this point, only running up on 2 bases. He's going to start to work on that Colossus count, but really going to have to reinforce with additional gateways, as we see here. Now, taking a look at Sting. Sting going very heavy into bio. Double medevac play also coming in once more. Production tab does show level 1 weapons upgrades and has been completed. No armor upgrades as of yet. But if Sting is not careful, Sting may actually let Grubby fight his way back into this. Sting, currently with about a 22 supply advantage, cannot really afford to let Grubby sit in this mid game for that long. He's getting better tech, he's further along in his upgrades, and he's already also going into a Twilight Council, so he has the transition to allow all of his Stalkers to gain blink and shoot down Vikings when the Viking count does start to grow. Also, the sheer amount of damage from these Colossus with extended thermal lance range will pretty much shut down all of this tier 1 army rather quickly. Combat shield is nearing completion, level 1 armor upgrades nearing completion as well, but I do not believe Sting has enough to break down this front door at all. And there's no real way for Sting to continue to sustain this attack just quite yet. Level 2 armor and weapons upgrade coming in. Oh, the Colossus is going to engage. Yes, the poor Marines and Marauders taking a little bit of a slice from heaven there, as the Colossi are able to get off 2 to 3 shots. We are adding in some Zealots. That's exactly what you need to see here, but they are completely useless there, and Grubby may have given it that game. He needed to absorb a little bit of damage while actually dealing some, but then again, we do see Sting actually utilizing Stim without engaging at all. That perhaps was a little bit of a misplay by Sting, getting a little bit overzealous, and now being forced to really heal back up a lot more damage than he would like. Those medevacs are starting to get low on energy, as we are going to see perhaps a bit of a fly around here. The medevacs now looking to perhaps do a drop down here. It looks like Grubby and his spider sense is tingling, perhaps knowing that something is awry, something is coming to meet and greet him straight up inside his base. There is a photon cannon in position in addition to 6 Stalkers, and there is 4 medevacs, though. I don't believe that is going to be enough to nope, it looks as though he noticed the Stalkers, and Grubby, with really good map awareness, decides to move his Stalkers just to make something happen. But now, what is this? Sting coming in from the other side with only one medevac, able to get off some easy shots there as the Marines are now coming in. 3 Colossi and beautiful force fields come in. Meanwhile, a drop now happening inside the main. Sting coming back to play with a very, very impressive drop right here in a non-stereotypical location as the Marines and the Marauders are now engaging against these units. Medevacs now trying to pick up all of these units here. Stalkers do blink forward, and I do believe Sting actually dealt a little bit more damage there as the Marines and the Marauders are now backing away. Sting in perfect position now for the mid to late game, as he is now setting up on 3 bases. Meanwhile, Grubby is only sitting on 2, and he has no transition. If he slows down to build a Nexus now, Sting will just get economically more ahead. If he tries to engage, he will find Vikings, Marines, and Marauders with even upgrades. Actually, no longer the case. We see Grubby now going into 3-3 upgrades. So Grubby may have a small window where he has 3-3 upgrades and his opponent only has 1-1 if he can manage his chrono boost on these 2 forges. If he does exactly that, he should be able to really deal a lot of damage. If you couple in the fact with Guardian Shield, that may be it. Right now, trying to rebuild his robotics facility. Sting now going into double command centers over here at his third. Most likely will just be upgraded to orbital commands. Sting does not want to upgrade or try to train up any more SCVs at this point, but does want the additional resources that mules can bring. Sting now sitting at near maximum supply, pretty much supplied out or supply capped at 199 over 200. One more Marine could perhaps be trained, but that's just very, very minor there, as we now see 7 Vikings in the air. We also have, 7 medevacs, and Sting really sticking to that old school Terran bio. Doesn't have any ghosts. Ghost Academy currently coming online, but it's still going to be quite some time before we see any ghosts on the field with actually enough energy for EMP. Alright, here comes the Marines and the Marauders, and it is going to be a shutdown here once more. Nexus most likely will get cancelled alongside all of those buildings there. The Marines gonna clean this up, and Sting right now knows that he can just pick and choose his fights. He knows he has the maximum supply advantage, and he knows he's up on bases. And because of that, he knows he can replenish his forces faster. You can see Sting now transitioning into many more barracks. Just in case one fight goes badly for him, he can replenish all of his units, especially with him sitting on about 2,500 resources. Additional command centers now being placed down. It looks like they're going to be turning into planetary fortresses. Sting at 200 over 200 compared to Grubby's 186. We can see a factory now about to burn to a crisp as we see another cancellation by Grubby. And this is a very, very frustrating point for Grubby. Grubby does have the upgrades. And yes, with 3-3 upgrades compared to now 2-2, if he tried to engage when his opponent had 1-1, he perhaps could have come out ahead. But it would have really come down to micro and positioning. And it really felt like Sting was one step of his opponent every step of the way. Sting now sitting at 200 over, Grubby now sitting at 200 over 200. Sting now sitting at 198. We are now going into double planetary fortresses with triple command centers again. And now the Zealots are ready to charge up the middle. Here we go. Just a crazy charge up the middle as we now see attacks now coming in. Here we go. Zealots are going to try to engage. All the Vikings are getting Psy-stormed. Beautifully done. And now Sting may not have enough Vikings. No, it looks like there will be enough to perhaps finish off the last 2 Colossi left. Marines is now still trying to fight back. Grubby, now his supply is plummeting. Is he going to be able to replenish these forces? As we now see another Viking fall in here. Archons are merging, but they are not going to see the light of day, as I believe Sting is going to clean this entire attack up. Is Grubby going to be able to get away? He will salvage this with a few units, and now some long distance mining, that walk of shame, as the Archon now trailing the Marines. Oh, the Marines almost getting off a shot here. Oh, Psy-storm could be coming in. This could be potentially bad, and wow, Sting may have overextended just a little bit to try and get more damage on an Archon's shield. Nexus is now up and running for Grubby, but you take a look at the base situation and you know Sting is just in much better control. Production tab shows more units coming in from Sting. Sting also with a larger gas count can afford to train up a lot of ghosts, and that's exactly what you need if you're going up against Zealot Archon. High Templars, oh, getting sniped down. Feedback coming in, and who's going to come out in this battle? Archon, seeing the rest of the reinforcements do decide to disengage, and Grubby is not in a good position at all. Planetary Fortress, Zealot now making its way over. It's not going to be able to do very much of anything, and once Grubby realizes that his opponent is up 2 bases, that may be just too much for him to handle. Orbital commands now coming in. You can see Sting, he also sacrificed a lot of his SCVs earlier in order to free up supplies. So this supply discrepancy 119 to 145 is actually 6 supply larger in favor of Sting at this point. Alright, it looks as though a Nexus may be coming in on the top left, but it may still be all for naught, as we now see that there is the Ghost sniped there. Stalkers, EMP, Shockwave, yes, onto the Archon shields. More units are trying to engage. More Zealots coming in as well. The Zealots, however, do not fare well against Ghost. Marines and Marauders are still grouped together. The Medivacs doing a little bit of that stutter step there. Stalkers are trying to engage, trying to clean up, but there is not going to be any good news for this Protoss army. There's the blink back, and Sting takes game 1 in this series. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed game 1 from IEM Intel Esports Masters Finals. Please stay tuned for game 2.